you're very welcome to Skin Deep by Karina Tolan. I am so excited to have Miss Mary Penrose here with me today. Just for a little bit of background, Mary came into my life and for hours and days after she left, I was still thinking about her amazing energy. And that is the exact reason why I created this long platform podcast, to be able to bring you people like her to inspire. Let me introduce you to, first and foremost, a mom, a life mentor and business coach, and one half of a power duo, which is, of course, Seamus and Mary Penrose. You're very welcome to Skin Deep by Karina Tolan.
It's all my honour being here with you today. And it's never a coincidence that we met. Everything aligned, that we were just meant to connect the way we did. And I'm so grateful that we did.
Do you know, me too. And I absolutely believe that, Mary. Mm-hmm. I needed you. I really needed you. And then the universe presented you to me. But what I want you to do is take us right back, Mary. Tell us about your journey to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, my journey began, I guess, over 10 years ago. I was a teacher for 8 years and I loved my job, and I love teaching people. I just teach people in a different way now. Mm-hmm. But there was many elements of it that didn't really light me up, from the point of view that when you have kids, everything changes, Karina, as you know. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have the freedom that I once thought that I would be able to have. And I guess now my outlook on what happened is very, very different to what it was back then. But we find ourselves in a very difficult position financially. My husband had his own business, and when everything was good, it was great. Yeah. He was making good money and I was teaching. I had a good wage, but then the recession hit and all of a sudden his work started to get more scarce. He needed to travel further for it. We had Jamie at this time, and he was never there. He was away first thing in the morning. When he'd come home, he was exhausted. Jamie was already in bed, and we were just like ships in the night. And that's okay if you're providing for your family, as he would say, but he wasn't even able to do that, because in his line of work, he was doing all of the work and then at the end hoping to get paid. But unfortunately, some people would say, well, I don't have any money left in my mortgage, so I can't pay you until, a few months down the line. So it was one of the biggest arguments I think we've ever had. And I really believe there's always a blessing and a lesson in every situation. And it was the only night I've ever I made him sleep on the couch because I was so angry, because I found some credit card bills. And on the credit card was money, like it was over 10,000 euros in 2 cards. They were maxed out. And he hadn't told me about it because he felt like he was such a failure. And we deal with things very differently. He didn't want to talk about it. But I was like, this isn't what I signed up to. We have a young child. We have another one on the way. What are we going to do? So he was using some of my wages to pay his staff, because they had to be paid first, obviously, which meant that every month there wasn't enough money left for us to just survive. Like, we weren't even surviving. We were literally just making ends meet. And the crunch was one time Jamie got sick and we didn't have health insurance. So to take him to NowDoc was 50 euros. And I didn't have that. I had to ring my parents and ask them for a lend of money. So I was like, something has to change. So we decided that he would close down his stair company and he'd go back to college to retrain. Now, he was never going to make a good employee. No, I know now he wouldn't, but
I feel like I wouldn't either.
No, he definitely would not. But he was prepared to do that, because running a traditional business for him, what we had experienced, there were so many overheads. It was completely stressful. So we had hoped that he would get a back to school education allowance. But unfortunately, my teaching wage was supposedly too high. So we didn't qualify. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know how to fix this problem, to be honest, Karina. Like, I was teaching full time. I came home and I was saying to Jamie I was pregnant. And the idea of going and getting a second job just was not something that I was just going to be able to do. So after I had Abby, I was very run down, very just low on myself. And I started taking a product. Fell in love with the benefits that I got from the product, and it was said to me, why don't you become a partner? Like, share this with others. But 10 years ago, I was a very different person to who I am now, and I was so shy. I was extremely introverted. I didn't have a large circle of friends. Mm-hmm. I never used social media. Like, I had 65 friends on Facebook. I didn't have an Instagram account. I was one of these people that just went on to look at other people. And it was so like, I have a screenshot of the night before I got married. And I put up a post and I'm getting married in the morning, and I had 3 likes, no comments. Like, I just was not one of those people. But what I did have was a willingness and a desire to change the situation we find ourselves in.
Right.
And I said yes, full of fear, full of worry, but I didn't want to stay the same. I thought if I could possibly earn an extra 200 to 500 euros each and every month, that would take the pressure off. We could breathe again. Like we had no savings, no nothing. That's where my journey into entrepreneurship started. I genuinely did not realize that it would grow into something that it has grown into. I did not start it thinking that I would leave my teaching job, but it lit a fire in me that was always there. I just needed something to bring it out. And that's why I'm so passionate about network marketing, because I think it gives the average person the best possible chance in life. Like, it literally showed me a whole other way. It brought me back to my babies, but it allowed me to actually become the best version of me through all of the personal growth, the personal development. It hasn't been easy, but it's been so worth it. So that's where my journey started.
Wow, well, that is incredibly inspiring. And I would imagine a tale told often throughout the land. I think many people at that stage in their life can find, because I don't know if it's just society, we just conform, don't we? We get that good job, we find that good man, we marry him, we have our kids. And then, I understand exactly how triggered you were, because finances trigger me terribly as well. And I can get very, very anxious about money. And then, of course, being a mother changes everything.
Completely.
Like you said, your instinct, for your survival instinct is like nothing on earth. You will do everything you can for your children and to protect your children and to give them the best life. But I love how that potential was within you and you never realized, you never knew.
It's within us all, but we just need to be willing to, like, there's signs everywhere, Karina, for us to go on a different path if we're not feeling satisfied. But so often we don't even see these as signs. So you've got to be the sort of person who wants to change more than they want to stay the same. Like, when I look back now, I think, where did that courage come from? Like, to do what I did, like, I genuinely, because it was not easy, like, especially with social media. For me, I adore it because it has created an incredible life for me. But there's also a very negative side to it and a scary side if you feed into that. So when I look back, I think, Mary, where did you get that courage from? But it was my vision of the life that I wanted to live. Like, that was deep within me. And like, whenever, because we're in the stage of the year now where lots of people are setting goals. And this is the one thing why I really believe why most people fail at setting goals is because they're not setting the right goals. They're not setting something that they really desire wholeheartedly to achieve. So for me, I really, really, really wanted to be able to earn an extra income without it interfering with what I was already doing and without it sacrificing time with my kids. So in my mind, when I achieved that first goal, when I got that extra, my first month I made €1,000, then it was, well, what else could I do? Maybe I could pay off this debt that's hanging over our head. So that drove me the following few months. And then it became, just imagine, Mary, if you could build this, that you could be at home with your babies, that you could be the one that's dropping them to school, that you could be the one that hears their stories first thing when they come out. Because I grew up with that sort of an environment. My mum was always there.
Yeah.
But I went through a phase where I was really angry at my husband because I was like, yes, I'm never going to get that opportunity because I have to work. But because I had a vision in my mind of what I really wanted, it pulled me to it. But I had to be willing to take the action. That's the difference.
Right. That's what I was going to say to you. So you have to want it,
More than you fear it.
Yeah. Like I would say sometimes to my kids, and their romantic ideas of what you want to do. One day it's a postman, the next it's a pilot. And my answer to every one of them is, you can be anything you want to be. You just have to want it enough.
Exactly. 100%. And that's why, so say for instance now, if my goal, which it's not, but if my goal this year, if I was like, I want to become a fitness model, now 100% is not that. Okay. But if I was like, that was my goal, then success, I'm a huge believer that success leaves clues. So if I want to achieve, amazing results in that area, then I need to follow people who've gone before me and essentially embody what they do. So eat like they eat, train like they train. So I need to really desire that more than the wine on a Friday night, the takeaway on the Saturday night. And this is what happens to so many people. They write down this list of goals. Well, I would like this and I would like this and I would like this. It's completely different to liking something and really desiring it, like this fire inside of you that's all you can think about. So that's why for someone who this year, it's like, this is going to be my year. Well, what's going to be different? Because it's not about the goals that you set. It's actually about who you become. So who I was 10 years ago is completely different to who I am today. Like, I have grown so much as an individual. Like, doing something like this, never. And people used to say to me, but you're a teacher, you're used to this. It's very different to stand in front of a classroom of kids who don't know if what you're saying is essentially correct than, the world that we're living in today, where I speak on social media and you run the risk of people criticizing you. But it's when you really see that this is where I want to go. So you've got to live from the future. And that wakes you up every day. That if you, when your alarm goes off, like you want to hit that snooze button, you're not inspired. You've not picked the right goal. When you pick the right goal, it should be the first thing you think about when you wake up. It should be the last thing that you think about every night. And this is where, like, I'm not a big fan of hustle, because in my early days, I definitely hustled because I didn't understand it. And hustle will get you so far, but you will hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
And it's really, you're out of alignment if you're hustling. But I think that when it comes to
hustling. I'm definitely hustling.
Yeah. And you will only go, you'll wear yourself down. You'll literally run yourself into
You'll end up
health.
with an impinged nerve in your neck.
That
crash your car.
But that's a sign. That's exactly a sign. Like, that's the universe saying, Karina.
I feel it. I hear it.
Yeah. So what are you going to do about it?
Oh, Mary, what am I going to do? Dan, what am I going to do?
But this is where you got to really be honest with yourself and say, what do I really want? Out of everything that I'm doing, what lights me up the most? Like, I spoke to the first day we met, like we had such a deep conversation.
Yeah, we really did. So people, connecting with people is so important to me. My treatment room is so important to me. I can't imagine living a life when the potential to meet someone like you and experience that kind of awakening is not there.
Yeah.
Definitely podcasts. Like, ultimately, you know, there's no money per se, you know, it's not a monetary reason that you would reach for this. But I love this. I love bringing this energy to people. I love what it does to me. Like, today, in theory, is my day off every week. Friday and Sunday are my day off every week. And there's nowhere I'd rather be than right here with you today, right now.
But the thing about it is, and that's, you know, that says it all, because you said there's no money essentially involved with podcasts.
Yeah. This
is where people get it so wrong, because before you can ever earn money, you must serve people. So
I'm on my way.
100%. Like, money is energy.
Yeah.
So you're serving, you're doing what you love best. So the money will flow. It may not be in this line, but it will come from some source. It always does. And this is, you know, what we must start to realize. If we do what we love, then the universe takes care of everything else.
So you must have, what I'm gathering is you must have faith and maybe surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yes. So faith is number one. And it can be hard. Like, let's face it, sometimes, especially like you said at the start, when we're brought up in a society where you go to college, you go to school, you get a good job. Like, I went into teaching because I knew I wanted to be a mom someday. And I thought, well, I'll have all of my holidays off.
Yeah.
But that was before I had kids. And it is great. Teaching is wonderful. And there's some incredible teachers out there. But for me, it was like, okay, I can have my summers off, but what about all the other days, the Christmas plays, all of those things that you just don't get the opportunity to attend if you're a teacher.
Yeah.
So it's so important that you act from a place of, like, essentially, you know, you've got to have that faith. But when you're like deciding what you want, you may not see the results straight away. So, like, when I started my journey, all I could see was an extra 200 to 500, because that was where I seen my self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I achieved that goal, my faith started to grow.
Right. You believed in yourself.
Exactly. A little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
And this is where I think for people in general, you've got to have faith in the unknown.
Yeah.
And the most powerful tool that every single one of us have is our imagination, Karina, and we don't use it enough.
Yeah, that's so true. And you know, I know it can feel a little bit daunting stepping into unknown territory, but there's no feeling worse than knowing you're on the wrong path as well, and that you're hustling, and that you're, like, I'm not for a minute saying that I feel like I'm not on the wrong path. Yeah. I don't. But I do feel as humans, we evolve constantly. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a constant movement. You know, I always say, be like water.
Yes.
You know, be fluid.
Yes.
Don't resist.
100%.
Don't conform. Don't, you know, be too tunneled.
But this is where you said about your environment. And this is key, because if you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people, you'll limit your mindset, you'll limit your growth. Whereas if you surround yourself with the dreamers, with the doers, that's where you're going to start thinking bigger. That's where you're going to stretch yourself. And I know for sure, because I speak to so many people on a weekly and monthly basis, so many of us are settling.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're lazy, because a lot of people would say, oh, he or she's just lazy.
Safe, maybe.
Yeah. It's that we're so afraid.
Yeah.
And our beliefs are so strong that we're staying in that position. But what's happening is, if you really are dissatisfied in the job that you're in, but you have a family like I was, mm-hmm. and you're thinking to yourself, well, I can't change it because I got to support my family. Mm-hmm. But every night you go to bed and you're thinking, oh my God, I have to get up tomorrow morning. And you're living for a Friday. That's not really living.
Yeah.
So what happens then is you'll actually end up getting sick. Your relationships are going to suffer. And unless you reach your enough is enough moment, then nothing is going to change. Life is going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Like it is. But it's a decision that we can all make.
Yeah.
Like it literally, you could decide today, I can decide today that I'm not happy with this, so I'm going to change it. But the problem is so many people are like, well, Mary, well, what would you do to change it? How would you change it? Because so many people are like, I don't really know what I want. It's like yourself. You're like, but you know what you don't want. So why not start there?
Yeah.
Why not make a list of everything that you don't want?
Yeah.
And then it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So it's, if I don't want this, well, what's the opposite of that? And that's where you start. But focus on one goal, give it your energy, and that will light you up. That will start to make you have more motivation every day. That will change your mindset around, oh, I'm stuck here to this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
We've always got to be focused on where we're going, always, because we're human beings. We're designed for growth. But like you think about when a baby's born.
Yeah.
Like the first thing that once a baby takes its first breath, what does it do? It cries.
Yeah.
Then we feed it, and it learns that, okay, well, if I cry, this is a reaction. I'm going to take action, so I'm going to get what I need. Then a baby wants to learn how to crawl, how to walk, and it's all about growth. It's all about moving forward.
Yeah.
But what happens then? Somewhere between being a child and being an adult, we think that we're not good enough. We think we're not capable. We think we can't. We stop believing in ourselves.
Yeah. We become fearful, I guess.
Exactly. But where does that stem from? Because we're all happiest when we're growing.
Yeah.
Like that is genuinely, we're all here to grow.
Yeah.
But when we're staying the same, that's when we become dissatisfied. And that's not a good place to be. You don't want to be living in that energy.
Yeah. God, that is so powerful, Mary. So powerful. You know, I'm thinking, we did mention that social media has some terrible, aspects to it. But I would imagine it would be a good place to start to pull off good energy, or if you're trying to decide on which way you want to go. Let's say if it was a fitness model, there's an abundance of fitness models on social media that you could reach to and look to.
Yeah.
Or even if it is just a particular type of energy.
100%. And I think that for me, you've got to use it as a tool, not a toy.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I totally get that. And I think that's why, if this content is making you feel good, inspiring you, motivating you, that's where you need to be. Fix your algorithm so that
100%.
that's what you're pulling into your energy field.
And I'm very sensitive to that.
Me too. So and even energies from people.
Oh yeah, completely. And you know when you meet somebody and like you just get this feeling like they're sweet to your face, but you just know there's something just not right.
Yeah.
That's just not your person. Yeah. Simple. And if you have that feeling, you just need to spend less time with those people.
Yeah.
You've got to be around people that make you feel like you could take over the world. Like those are the sort of people you need to be around. And this is where social media is amazing. And I think especially for someone like myself who was really introverted. Mm-hmm. So for me to go out and meet people face to face, oh my gosh, that scared the life out of me because I just had no confidence. But I was able to hide behind social media for a while until I grew in confidence. Mm-hmm. But also, I think that you've got to make sure that the people that you're following, that you're aspiring to be like, are definitely in alignment with you. Because I've had many coaches over 10 years. I'm in business 10 years. And some of the coaches have really helped me to grow. Yeah. Really, really have. But some of them have knocked my confidence because I didn't feel worthy. And it was their style of teaching. And it's always a reflection of, who I am. I think that we can't blame, shame or justify. We've got to take responsibility for our own lives. If it's to be, it's up to me. It's not up to you. Like if I want to change my life, it's not up to my husband. It's up to me. Yeah. I need to accept responsibility. So this is where social media can be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at it, you need to think, well, what aspects of what they're doing do I love? Yeah. And if you're looking at the fitness models and people who are training, and they're saying that they're in the gym 3 or 4 hours a day, is that something that you really want?
Yes.
Is it really what you want? Yeah. Because people look at me and they're like, oh, Mary, you have a great life. And I'm like, yeah, but I have made sacrifices.
Yeah.
Because you do have to sacrifice. Like if you want to change something, you're going to have to sacrifice. And a lot of people love the idea of achieving certain things, but they're not willing to do what it takes.
Yeah. They're not prepared to walk the walk.
No. And that's where we grow. Like, Green, that's the most beautiful part of it all. Yeah. Like, that's where we grow.
Yeah.
It's not in the highs, it's in the lows.
Yeah.
Because that's what really develops our character.
Yeah.
That's where, I look back and I think, oh my goodness, how I even dealt with that would be very different to how I dealt with it now. But I did the best that I could with what I knew at the time.
Yeah.
Which is so important.
Yeah.
So I do think that social media is amazing. Like I recommend, but you've got to be very, very, very intentional with the type of people you follow.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I can't help but think of, I was just in the Spar next door before I came into you, and I went straight to the magazine section, and there was Suzanne Jackson looking back at me. And Suzanne's a really good friend of mine. I know her maybe 10 plus years. I've travelled the country with her doing talks at her shows, etc. And she comes into me in my clinic. And I would consider Suzanne to be a very good friend. Mm-hmm. And you know, when she signed up for Dancing with the Stars, I'm not going to lie, I was like, what are you doing, girl? Oh my God. I've had a client as a contestant on every one of those series.
Wow.
So I know how difficult it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know the pressure they're under, physically the pressure they're under. And I know Suzanne is not doing it for the exposure or for the,
she doesn't need
the
it.
money. No. But she instinctively, without even realizing it, she showed me on her phone her rehearsing, and in that moment I was like, oh, I've nothing to worry about here, girl. You have got this. I could see it in her, the energy in her. She was just alive, and she was challenged, and she was completely outside her comfort zone. And I knew this was going to serve her so much more long term. All the lessons she'd learned throughout this experience. And I guess now maybe Suzanne does her affirmations. You know, I think some people have this, like maybe you had this built into them, this way of life, and they like to constantly challenge themselves, and they do grow from it. And then there's that other person who's afraid to step sideways. So what I want you to tell me is, like, what factors do you see in people that hold them back? What's the greatest thing to hold them back? Is it maybe a childhood where they've been raised not having that self-worth or that self-belief built into them? Or, you know, what makes one person do it and another person not do it?
It's completely our beliefs. That's what it boils down to. It's our beliefs.
Yeah.
So I was very blessed. I was brought up in a very stable, loving family.
Yeah.
But I know an awful lot of people who didn't have the same start in life as I have, but they have created the most incredible lives for themselves.
Yeah.
So you've just got to be willing to want to change. Like anybody can change at any point in time, but you've got to change that belief. You've got to decide that I no longer want to be that person. I don't want to play the victim card anymore. Because, like, if I be really honest with you and I look at what I've achieved, it's not normal for someone from my background. I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family or anything like that. Like, I grew up and my mom and dad, their main goal in life for me was to start, my career with having no debt. They poured all of the money that they possibly could have into me to giving me the best start in life. So I didn't know that I was going to end up here, but it was my challenge that I was going through financially was what spurred me on to go, I need to change this.
Yeah.
I can't keep complaining about what I'm seeing in front of me if I'm not willing to do something to change it. And this drives me crazy, Karina. People complain about the situation that they find themselves in. And when you offer them a solution, all they see is the problems. What you focus on, you get more of.
Yeah.
So if you focus on the problems, of course you're going to get more problems.
Yeah.
But why not choose to focus on, well, what if this worked for me?
Yeah.
What if it?
Do you know, I see that every day in clinic with skin, where all they see is the breakouts. And I'm like, I sometimes have to circle where I can see all the beautiful, glorious, healthy skin coming through. And when I do that, they're like, oh yeah, I never noticed that because you were too busy looking at the breakouts. And I say it all the time, where you give energy, you feed.
Everything is energy.
Yeah.
Everything is energy.
So I guess, to some people, the door is more obvious. And then to others, they may have to do a little bit of searching. But fundamentally, I think it is that belief. Like, not going back to Suzanne, but I remember her putting up a quote, just a girl who believes she could do it. And that is so true. Like, she was just a normal girl from Scaries, And I'm not saying for one second that, just because she has this success that she doesn't have any issues or problems. I mean, I know all Suzanne's vulnerabilities too. And, all her insecurities too. And we all have them as well. I guess she just doesn't feed them as much.
Exactly. And
as she feeds. That's not the energy she puts out. She puts out this, confidence to go out and dance and do all this. And I guess we just have to dig a little bit deeper and decide which, which side of us we're going to give most energy to.
Yeah, and like I think she's one of the most incredible role models for business women.
She set
across the world.
Look at all the women, the incredible business women this country is pumping out. Like amazing. I don't even start naming them because in case I forgot some. Exactly. But I don't need to name them. Everyone is so aware of them. I see clients come into me wearing all these brands, wearing all these makeup brands. And I do believe it was that started it. She created that wave. She created that momentum. She was the very first to do it. And maybe we all need that. Well, there's always someone who does it first. But what matters is what followed afterwards, what momentum came from that.
And she obviously seen... well, maybe she didn't, but this is my opinion on it. She got an idea from someone else. Because like I said earlier, success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there was someone that she looked up to that she got an idea from. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. If we want our behaviour to change, we've got to change our thinking. And we've got to change our ideas. Mm-hmm. So she started as a beautician. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're right, actually.
As a beautician. So she started as a beautician, but then she became famous as a blogger when blogging wasn't even famous. Mm-hmm. But where did she get that idea from? Something sparked that in her. Yeah. But she was brave enough to take the action. Yeah. And then some people will say she got lucky. I don't believe in luck. I genuinely don't believe in luck. No. We create our own luck based on the action that we're willing to take. Yeah. How many other people have started blogging, tried it for a while, and said it doesn't work? Yeah. And it's not that it doesn't work. It's that it wasn't in alignment with them and they weren't willing to do what it takes.
Absolutely. I mean, I have... said to Suzanne, she will be a guest on my podcast as soon as Dancing with the Stars is true, and she's excited to be here. But I'm going to say she loved doing it. And I think that's when you follow your passion. She was, I think, at that stage working on in an office on a radio station, and her soul started to get ignited with all these kind of famous people coming in. Mm-hmm. I can't say social media because I don't even think it was a thing at the time, but coming into the studio, and she was excited. It excited her. And so she just put not necessarily pen to paper, but she just started to type. And that's exactly where that energy, she loved it first and she followed off on that energy. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking here, when we spoke about, the raring you got, I got, and absolutely. So both you and I are mothers. What do you instill in Abby and Jamie today to prepare them for a life, let's say, a life that they want to live? Or what exactly do you envision for them? I don't believe, for me personally, I believe I had two little girls. I have the privilege of rearing them and bringing them to adulthood, but they're complete separate entities to me. Yeah. And I just want to put them out to the world. And I feel like if people in the universe benefits from Grace and Emer, then as a mom, I did a good job. Yeah. Whatever they want to do, that's completely up to them.
100%. And isn't it funny? The one thing that makes me emotional is talking about my kids. Like, it just does something to you. Yeah. And when I think about what the future holds for them, the most important thing is I want them to be happy. Yeah. Like, coming from a teaching background, I used to think that they needed to get really good grades, and my opinion has really changed on that. College is extremely important and I want them to go to experience it. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is that they go into school every day, so excited. They come out really happy and smiling, and not every day is perfect because they're kids, but I only got started in the personal development world 10 years ago. They've been brought up in it. Like the difference that it's going to make to them, to their outlook, to their mindset. And simple things that we do as a family is our affirmations. Like in the morning when they're going to school, now I don't drive them anymore because since we moved down here, they walk to school. But when we used to drive to school, every morning we would say our affirmations. So Abby would say her first 3 things. What is the 3 things she's grateful for? And Jamie would say his 3 things. And I'd say, who are you today? And Abby would say, I am strong. I am creative. And Jamie would say his 3. And then the last thing we would always finish was with, and what's your goal for today? To make someone smile. Oh, lovely. So it's like little things like that can make the biggest difference. So when I think about what the future holds for them, it's encouraging them to dream so big, Karina. Yeah. The sky is the limit. They can do anything. Yeah. But what they need to do is they need to see themselves as having already achieved that. Like when I think about Jamie and Abby, and I'm such a huge, as you can tell, huge believer in the law of attraction and manifestation. And I didn't understand it the way I do now, like a few years ago, but I always used to think I'd love to have a boy first. And then I'd love to have a daughter because I never had a brother. And I used to think like I'd love to have a boy who'd look after his little sister. Not sure how well that works all the time, but but that's exactly like our first was a boy, our second was a girl.
Yeah.
We have so much power within us. Like,
absolutely.
it's unbelievable the power that like you literally, if you want something bad enough, like if you wanted this podcast to be number 1 in Ireland and it was like you desired it so much, I'm telling you it's already done.
Yeah.
It's already done. But what you need to do is you need to go to that place. So Jamie, he's crazy about basketball. He loves basketball. Growing up, Seamus, my husband, he was big into soccer and Gaelic. And Jamie had no interest in any of these. So here he was with a son, but did no desire. But I really admire Seamus's outlook on it. He didn't force him to do anything. He said he'll figure out his own path. And if he wants to do sport, great. If he doesn't, no problem. Yeah. But over COVID, Jamie became interested in basketball and the obsession started to grow. And now all he wants to become is an NBA sports star. Like he just wants to become like, and he could tell you anything about all of the different basketball players. And I keep telling him, okay, Jamie, you're already there. So what's your diet like? And some people may say he's only 11, but these are the things that are going to help him if he really wants. Now his desire's there at the minute. Will it be there in 10 years? I've got no idea, but I'm going to do the best thing that I can do as knowing what I know to help him. If that's really his goal, if that's really his dream, to achieve that. Yeah. Like it's so easy when you know how. Yeah. Like it's actually a science.
Yeah. But you're actually teaching him how, if that's what he wants, there's little things he needs to start putting in place to make it happen. That's accountability. Mm-hmm. That's really, really important. And as adults, we all need to learn that as well. Yeah. Yeah. That it doesn't just happen. We're not entitled. No. We have to actually put the work in. And interesting you bring up manifestation, because sometimes I think people think with manifestation it's as easy as, I want that check to land in my door. Yeah. But talk to us about that, because for me, I think I'm naturally a manifester anyway. I think it's
everybody is.
Oh, interesting.
Everybody is a manifester.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, because for me, like I always imagined that when I find, like when we were looking for our home that we live in forever, I always had this thing that I'd drive in and turn to the left. Mm-hmm. Don't know why, but as I was visualizing myself coming home in the evening, and that's exactly what happens. Like when you drive in my hill, you turn to your left and park there.
It's no coincidence.
And I could park where my husband parks, but that wasn't what I manifested, was it? Now I go to the left, so I've just automatically, that's where I park my car every day. I too believe when you say it, I'm a girly girl. Mm-hmm. And I would feel like I manifested 2 girls. Mm-hmm. I did always feel like that's exactly everything about my life makes sense. Yeah. I always feel like it's no shocker. Like this is exactly what I've always been working towards and building towards. Mm-hmm. So talk to us, like for those that really want to manifest, and what it means to manifest, and why would you, and what exactly is it? Like, is it just keeping us on the right path? Is it keeping us grounded?
So we could talk for hours about this. It's such a passion of mine. And so let me take you back just a couple of years. So I had massive success, and I would say I was an unconscious confident. Okay. And what that means was I was able to manifest what I wanted without even realizing it. So I was always living from the future. So I was amazing at going into the future. People would say, "You have amazing vision, Mary." And I didn't really understand what they meant. Mm-hmm. So before I ever achieved a goal, I was like, this is where we're going. Can't wait. Like, it's going to be amazing. We're going to do this. And I'd imagine what I was going to wear, or the music that was going to play. Yeah. But then what happened is, so it's all a reflection of how we see ourselves. I had had so much success. But then I started to doubt myself. Is this going to last? Okay. Will it keep growing? So my success then started to come down to where I seen myself. So if we really the change happens in our lives when we change who we are. Yeah. But it's how we see ourselves. Yeah. So when you said about manifestation, everyone at every minute of every day is manifesting by their thinking. Yeah. So there are people that are thinking now about, oh my God, where is money going to come to pay for this bill? Mm-hmm. So you're going to attract another bill because that's what you're thinking about. Oh. Or there's other people that are thinking, I wonder what type of car I'm going to get now in July. And that's where the thoughts are. Exactly. So you got to live from that place. So see, when you get into your car that you have now, Karina, you got to imagine that you're getting into your dream car. Yeah. How does the leather smell? What color is the leather? What about the steering wheel? Is it a heated steering wheel? What does the stereo look like? And one of the best tips, and I remember saying this to you, is go and test drive it. Get into it and feel it. And it's even like when people are wanting to move house. We did this. We couldn't decide where we wanted to live, and we went like to all of the different places we were thinking about. We went and we viewed houses. I sat on the couch and I was like, how does it feel? Just nothing, just really, there were so many great aspects, but it just didn't feel right to me until Malahide. And everything was so easy. When everything is in alignment, when it's what's right for you, it's not hard. It's so easy.
Yeah.
So if you want to manifest incredible things into your life, you've got to think incredible things. So for me, a huge change in our business was, it took me 4 years. So for 4 years, I was saying I was going to do like a certain thing in our business. But saying it and doing it so different.
Yeah.
And when I made the decision, when I decided we're going to do this, and I said, this is how we're going to celebrate. I'm going to take my parents to Mexico. Mm-hmm. We're going to achieve this goal on our wedding anniversary. We're going to be popping champagne on the beach. What I was working on for 4 years took me 4 months. That is the power of internalizing it, like feeling it. So this is why when you create goals, you really need to want them. So when it comes to your new car, is it something that you really want? So like, I'm a big believer in vision boards. We do vision boards as a family every year. And some things that I've put on in the past, I never achieved them because they weren't really things that I really wanted.
Yeah.
So, and when I teach on this and train on this, I often go back a couple of months later and I'll say, remind me of the things that you've put on your vision board. And people will have to go look and I'm like, no, don't look, just tell me. And they don't know. And I'm like, how do you ever think that you're going to achieve it? Because you don't even know what's on it.
Yes.
So you don't need all of these fancy things. It's like, what do you really want? And then break it down. I believe in working a 90-day block. So even when you're manifesting, this year, for instance, you may have lots of things that you want to achieve, but write them all down. And then, well, if you could achieve one of them, it's probably going to tick off a lot of the others.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you think? So if your goal this year was, say it was to become the #1 podcast in Ireland. Okay?
Yeah.
So every time that you're doing a podcast, you show up like, this is a #1 podcast in Ireland.
Yeah.
How would you think? What sort of speakers would you want to have on? How many different times each week would you be releasing a podcast? What platforms would it be available on? You have to live from that place. So you use your imagination to go into the future and you bring it into the present.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how you manifest. I have manifested some phenomenal things. Like the stories that I could tell you would put hairs in the back of your neck. And I didn't understand, you see, how I was doing it. And I often wondered, what makes me different? Why have I achieved all of this success and other people haven't? Why do some people start what I do, but never go to the levels that I go? And it really frustrated me because I know that I have a system in place. Like I know how to teach people how to build online businesses, but why do some people do it and some people don't? It's our mindset.
Yeah.
That is the biggest differentiator in our lives. It's 97% mindset, 3% strategy. But I was getting it wrong. And this is why I was hustling, because I was always looking for a new strategy.
Would you describe hustling as being distracted?
No. Would I describe it as being, to an extent, yes. But it's more where you're confused.
Right.
Where you're working. And it's like, I'm doing a little bit of this and I'm doing a little bit of that. And I'm going over here and I'm going over there. And I'm looking at what she's achieving and I'm looking at what he's achieving. And I don't know, how am I going to do this? Like nothing's working. You're living in a lack place.
Yeah.
And it's even like when people say to me, you know, I need this to happen this year.
Yeah.
Get rid of the word need.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You don't need it. Need is like, there's a different energy.
Urgency. And,
yes.
Yeah.
It's like, I want this to happen.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so what do you want to happen this year?
Yeah.
Let's go into, and for me now, like I actually find it easier to go to 5 years in the future. So like every morning I think about, okay, it's 5 years in the future. What's life like? And I always write it in the present tense, Karina. I don't write like in the future, I'll be happy. I'm like, I'm so grateful that, you know, I've just woken up and the sun's beaming in and, you know, so it's always living in the future, but taking it into the present.
You know, I feel with time, I can't really describe how I feel with time, right? But I feel like there's no clock. that we are here in the moment and we exist, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that I think when you take that urgency for time out and trust the process and trust your journey, it just makes more sense than when you get to where you are
Mm-hmm.
or where you want to be. Because I think when you focus too much on time, that urgency does slip in. You do get distracted and you're like, well, I wanted this to happen by then. And if it doesn't happen by now, well, there's no point in me continuing because I'm not where I'm meant to be. Whereas if you take that and clock out, like I remember going through some really, really difficult times. I lost my dad and I lost my mom not long afterwards. My relationship of all my life from when I was 17 years old completely went. I was so lost, like, and I just kept saying in the back of my mind, you will be okay. Good times will be are there. They're coming. You know, keep everything intact and keep everyone, find the joy in every day until you're in that better place.
Yes.
And here I am. And I'm like, this is what I manifested this back. In actual fact, manifested my husband back too. I don't know if he knows this, but I always knew we'd get back together. And I felt even when times were, when I was in that turmoil, I was always safe in the knowledge that we would be back together and he would lie beside me again and I would have that
But
love.
you've seen that.
Yeah, I knew
see,
it would happen.
Yeah, you could see that. So many people can't see that. And it's like when you went through, the passing of your mom and your dad, you had a choice, just like everyone has a choice.
Absolutely. And I did choose. I was in Africa. I'd lost my dad. I knew I was going to lose my mom. I could see her just getting worse and worse in front of my eyes and losing her will and passion for life. And I knew ultimately when that would happen that she would go. And I was in Africa and I was out in the Maasai amongst all the wilderness and lines were like just surviving and the pride. And I could see so much of myself in the lines, even with the women and the sisters and the children and how protective we were of them. And then I could see the mothers and the natural circle of life, And I came home and I was like, Karina, be calm. The universe is greater than you. You have to accept what it is and don't fret and don't be scared. Accept it and realise that that's exactly how it's meant to be.
What a beautiful way to look at things.
And Mary, my mom had the most beautiful passing. I have absolutely no regrets. I believe a lot of grief is regrets. I told her exactly how much I loved her, as I did with my dad the day the doctors told us that he would die. I went up, everyone else got into their cars and I went straight up to the ward he was on and I lay beside him and said, you know what they just told me, Dad? And he was like, I do. And what I said to him in that moment, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And that took courage.
Absolutely.
But with every footstep I took that I was getting closer to him, and I knew I had to look at my father and say, you're dying, you're going to leave me. But I also said to myself, how must it feel to be him, And if I was him and my daughter was making her way down the corridor, what would I want to hear? And that's what I said to him.
Wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah, that's what I said to him. I thanked him for teaching me how to love, for teaching me how to be a parent. I said, some people leave millions. I said, what you left me is in absolute abundance. Priceless. What you gave me. And I crawled underneath his arm like I did. I lay with my dad like a child and I did that right up. I was pregnant cuddling into my dad. But
if you think about what you've just said there, and maybe someone needs to hear this today. Like I'm a real believer that what we're talking about, this is going to really help someone.
Yeah.
Because our thoughts create our feelings. So if your thought was one of, I don't want to lose my dad, so you're thinking about yourself, then the feeling is worry, fear, doubt.
Yeah.
So your thoughts create your feelings, which create your actions. You wouldn't have went up to him.
Yeah.
So the result wouldn't be that you can sit here today and share that story.
Yeah. And just knowing that I gave that to him, because in that moment I said,
it wasn't about you.
Yeah, I said, why do I not want him to go? He's literally giving me every tool I need to live a fulfilled life without them. He's fulfilled his role.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
So powerful. So powerful.
And I think sometimes what creates fear is resisting change. So whereas if we accept the change and don't fear it and realize that it too can bring a blessing. What was it you said? Every lesson has
a blessing or a lesson. Always.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest tips I would say to anybody listening to this is choose gratitude. When you feel fear, choose gratitude.
Yeah.
So even for instance, in that moment where you had I don't want to experience that moment for a long, long time, but you chose to seek gratitude in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's what made it, it's a different energy.
Yeah. And even since then, this is something that comes out of my mouth so often, and sometimes I can't believe I'm saying it. can't remember what, I was out with my sisters last night and I can't exactly remember the situation, but a client was in with me, and her mother-in-law was a good friend and client of my mother's. So, you know, you affiliate two people together.
Yeah.
This lady's not well at all. She's has really bad Alzheimer's, and she's in a home, and her husband has had a stroke and he's in a home. And I have a photograph in my treatment room. You may have seen it, of my mum and I.
I did, yeah.
And I just, when as I was working on my client, I looked up to my mum and I said, well, thank God you're where you are.
Yeah.
You know, you had such a beautiful passing.
Yeah.
You know, the nights we sat up and, you know, the laughs we had in the run up to her leaving us. It was magical. And, you know, I don't see the negativity of being gone. I choose the joy in what we had and the gratitude in the passing that she had. It was before COVID. The house was full. It was really perfect.
Yeah. And it's
and that you know, I could look up and say, oh God, I miss you so much.
Yeah. And there's elements that you do miss, but you give gratitude for the times that you had.
Yeah.
But it's even when you talked about time, like if you think about, we're so often, like we live in fear. That's what keeps us stuck. We're worried about what other people will think. Yeah. Well, how will this be perceived? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I tall enough? Am I thin enough? Yeah. These are all the fears that we live with. Yeah. But if you were to go to your deathbed, would you really think back, like, that's what always kept me going? Was like, I want my children are going to be my reason, not my excuse. Because a lot of people say, well, I've got kids and I want to spend time with them, which I completely appreciate. But if you want to give them a better life, it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice all your time with them, but you're going to have to sacrifice some time with them. But if you were told that you've only got a couple of weeks left to live, are you really going to be worried about what people will think? Are you going to be worried about what people will say? Yeah. Or do you want to look back and think, well, I lived every day like it was my last. I gave it everything. And I have left a legacy behind me where I have inspired people. I have impacted people to go after their dreams. I have, just like I talked about Suzanne. Look at the amount of people she has inspired to have the courage.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. And sometimes people who've never walked their shoes don't see that side of it. And they think, oh, it's easy for them. Yeah.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy at all.
It's not. But it's worth it. Yeah. It's worth it. And, you know, that's what she can sit like quite confidently. Like, I admire her. See, doing Dancing with the Stars.
She could fall on it flat in her face. Like, literally anything could happen. It's live television.
Yeah. But that's a whole new
euphoria she felt after that dance. And I know she audioed me when she was in bed, and I was like, you won't be sleeping for hours. The adrenaline was running through her. That she would never have experienced that had she not felt that fear and pushed forward.
She's a different person because of that.
Absolutely a different person.
Forever will be. Like, we like, it's all about our awareness in life. Everything is about our awareness. So every day I'm thinking, how can I become more aware of areas in which I can grow, I can improve? Because the day that you think you've arrived, Karina, it's all over. Yeah. It's all over. Yeah. And that's a different energy. So even I've admired people and I've watched their journey, but then something changes. Yeah. And they think that, wow, here I am, look at me, and ego takes over. Yeah. When ego takes over, it's time to, you got to change things up. Yeah. So I think for Suzanne going on Dancing with the Stars, she left her ego out the door.
Absolutely.
And like that, I high five her for that.
Me too. And, you know, for a woman who's built a career with a persona and putting out a message, to leave your ego at the door is huge. Incredible. It's huge. And I think it's perfect for her at this stage in her life as well. Yeah.
Not for me. Definitely not. I'll leave her with the dancing shoes.
Oh my God. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine. But at the same time, I would love to do something, not that, but something that would challenge me as much and make me feel so uncomfortable that I would push through it. Yeah. And I have done, like I was a powerlifter, like not obviously as glamorous as a dancer. Yeah, so I love lifting heavy weights. And then when I realised I had a natural affinity for it and it came easier to me than most people, and I loved it, and I loved that feeling, that adrenaline and that euphoria when you get the lift. So then I went on to break a world record.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And it was great. Now, what happens with a world record in powerlifting is the minute you do it, the next person looks to do it. So obviously it was broken thereafter.
Yeah, but you still did it?
I still did it. And my children sat in front of me as I did do it. And actually it was gas because I was going in to lift for the world record, and I rang a coach that I'd worked with, and I said, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And he said, I was deadlifting. He said, just imagine the two girls are underneath the bar and there's a train coming. And I was like, I could have lifted any weight. But you know, and that was it. Once I did that, I never did it again because that was my goal, and I'd done it.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah. And you know, I think that's it. Because you must realize as well that those goals are there to grow from. And I did grow from that. And I learned a lot from it. And then I went on to find other goals and to move on from that.
Yeah.
Mary, I want to ask you, because you inspired me so much and motivated me. Who inspires you or motivates you?
Oh my gosh, who inspires me and motivates me? So many people. I think one of my biggest motivators is my mum. She is phenomenal. You've had the pleasure of meeting her. She has a great outlook in life. She has the most amazing work ethic. She's always taught me to go after my dreams and to never settle.
Yeah.
So probably she's my biggest inspiration in life.
Amazing.
There's some like amazing, like Suzanne Jackson. I think she's phenomenal. I think as an Irish businesswoman, she's just next level at what she's achieved. I think Oprah Winfrey, like, come on, who doesn't love her? Yeah. Then Bob Proctor actually played a big role in my life. Like, that's what really, I suppose, changed my whole mindset, along with Kim Calvert, an amazing mentor of mine. And so many people. Like, I think when you're in business, I have different mentors for different elements of my business that I need help with, that I need to grow. Yeah. But one thing that I've learned from mentors is you've got to find someone who's still doing what you want to do, because there's a lot of people out there who can talk the talk, but they've never built a business. Right. It's very different.
Yeah, like, very different.
Very different actually building a business and someone telling you what to do than actually doing it. Yeah. And I've made some mistakes over the years, but like with different mentors. But the one thing that I've learned is I've always learned something. Right. Like, I've always taken something away. Yeah. And that's probably like one of my best pieces of advice I'd give someone is, if you want to go slow, you can try and figure it all out. Or if you want to really speed things up, go and follow people who have the results that you want to have, that have achieved what you want to achieve. And that's such an easier, like, you just completely shortcut your success. Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, how do you relax? How do I relax? So this is quite an interesting one, because when I used to hustle, I needed, like, I needed to relax, but I would have been afraid to take time off, because I would have thought, is my business going to continue? Yeah. But I built my business very differently in the past 3 years, where I actually built my life around my business. So I put in my lifestyle first. The first thing, like, I'm a big fan of scheduling, because I believe what gets scheduled gets done. And this is why so many people are chasing their tail, because they are getting up and the day is attacking them. So when it comes to relaxation, my morning routine is my sacred time. It sets me up to win. Like, I am such an advocate. Yeah, you got up really early, and I see you could even be on Zoom or I do a morning call on a Monday to help, like, with some of our clients. We help them. We call it our wake up and win call. It's like putting on your coat of armor for the week. It's setting you up. It's getting your mindset right, not allowing the day to attack you. It's like you getting yourself laser focused on where you're going. It's dialing in your sat nav for the day. And who are on these calls? So clients of ours and team members of ours. So describe a client of yours. Is it someone like me? Is it a business person, or is it somebody? It's both. So we have different business people that we work with. So people who are starting businesses, who want to, like, who want to get to 10K a month, who are maybe earning 2,000 or 3,000, not sure how to bring it to the next level. Then I have people who are in business and they're super successful, but they're burnt out. So this is where we work with them very deep on their mindset and help them realize that they need to realign with their goals. They need to improve their self-image. And, we talk about scheduling. Then I've got my network marketing team. And these are moms, dads, teachers, lawyers, accountants, people who start with me in my network marketing business to create an extra income, to take the pressure off. Yeah. And grow it to something very special, something so much more. And that's kind of like, it's a real mixture of people that be on these calls. You know what I'm thinking? This quote that I love: the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And that sounds, to me, that's what you're doing. You're literally giving back all the tools that you've learned. Yeah. What is your life mantra, Mary? Sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. Love that. And I've learned over many, many years that it's not about speed all the time. Sometimes you just need to take a deep breath, realign yourself, really think about, am I going where I want to go, or am I going where I think I should be going? Yeah. Such a big difference in that, Karina. Such a big difference. And so it was like me when I said we were hustling for 4 years to achieve a goal. And when I really just took a step back and was like, how do I want this to look? Yeah. How do I want this to go? Yeah. What was taking 4 years and not moving forward took 4 months. That's the power of it. That is the power of it. Slow is smooth is fast. Love it. I think in this world that we live in, which is this massive rush for instant results, even like
fast track in Disney. Everyone's a fast track.
Yeah.
But sometimes the key is actually to
Enjoying
slow
the
down.
journey. Enjoy
yeah,
the journey.
Brilliant.
Live
Love
in the
that.
present.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know if tomorrow's promised for us, but you got to make today count. You
Make
got
it
to,
count.
enjoy every moment.
Mary, I have goosebumps. Tell me, Mary, where can people find you? If they need more of this amazing energy, where can they find you?
So Instagram, I've got 2 accounts. We've got the Penroses, which is basically you'll get a mixture of everything. You'll get parts of my network marketing journey, my health. I'm very big on my health. I believe if you really want to be a high performer, feel optimal in your health, you've got to look after yourself first. We'll be talking mindset. You'll see lots of you'll see me in my pajamas in the morning. I'm very much keep it real. And then just like you, Karina, I just love that it's not just have to have the makeup on to be seen. Or then if it's just real business that you want, introvert mentors. And why we branded ourselves introvert mentors is because both my Seamus are introverts. And just because you're introverted doesn't mean you can't be successful. A lot of people think I'm too quiet. I don't really like people. I'm telling you, I'm an introvert. My husband is a next level introvert.
Yeah.
And
I think I am too.
You are, yeah.
Yeah, I really do feel that. So I love that you have actually created that platform for the introvert, because sometimes they need to literally be invited.
Yeah. And I have something very special for your listeners.
Okay.
So we've just created a new course about mindset. And for any of your listeners that want to avail of it, we're going to give them a 50% reduction with a special code. Karina50 is the code, so they can avail of that for your listeners.
Mary, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And I, absolutely, we've spoken about taking control and implementing changes. And, sometimes that's just the discount code. One needs to do it.
Well, now it's about taking action. Because manifestation, the law of attraction, requires action. That's a secret.
I don't even talk because I want to finish on that note. Mary, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.